Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Now, since 2015, the federal government has set aside a yearly budgetary allocation of 500 billion naira for social investment programs. Many states are beneficiaries of the social intervention programs that include the conditional cash transfer and market money. It's highly held that 80% of the Buhari administration's developmental programs are hinged on social investment in the drive to tackle poverty, unemployment, and infrastructural decay. Now, going by the records, more than 9 million pupils are beneficiaries of the homegrown school feeding program in 26 states, with about 65.8 billion naira invested so far by the government on the scheme. Now, the story is not different from that of the NPower, where a good number of graduates are paid a monthly stipend of 30,000 naira. Now, the gains of the social investment program and projections, that's what's in focus tonight after this report by Franca Uzoma Olua.
Poverty means many things to different people. For Mama Aminatu Julius of Obasa community in Kogi State, abject poverty took away her dignity and self-worth, having no roof over her head.
Now, so chakada people we select, we gather around. If you rain, they fall. Now, so we stand.
But all that is now history. She is one of the beneficiaries of the monthly stipend of 5,000 naira to the poorest Nigerians in local communities through the Conditional Cash Transfer (CCT) program.
Now, Buhari helped me like this. Now, so I greet her more.
She is not alone. Many women in Kogi State have become successful entrepreneurs in agriculture and petty trading through the CCT.
As the time where the money come for my hand, I take and do something where I do farm, buy honey.
My mother they used a gym before, but the one don't spoil. As Buhari can help those them. Because of that, then my mother can't have money to go and buy this new gym.
The story is not different in Lafia, Nasarawa State. Here, the aged and vulnerable persons have been given a new lease of life. As of January 2018, more than 297,000 beneficiaries have been paid in 20 states across the 6 geopolitical zones. Another dramatic break from the norm under the Buhari administration is the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. It was initially designed to feed 5.5 million children in primary 1 to 3, but currently feeds 8.2 million children across 24 states. The children are fed an egg a week.
If you look at the value chain, the agricultural revolution that this is creating at the grassroots, the benefit is unbelievable.
In all of this, the social investment program is seen as one of the most ambitious projects of the Buhari administration, designed to put smiles on the faces of many Nigerians, especially the vulnerable group. The NPower is the job creation initiative of the federal government under the Social Investment Program (SIP). It was initiated in 2016 to help young Nigerians, both graduates and undergraduates, to acquire and develop lifelong skills to enable them become solution providers in the areas of building, teaching, agriculture, and health. NPower provides a 3-month industrial training for beneficiaries, followed by 9 months industrial attachment.
We've been able to take off 200,000 young unemployed graduates between the ages of 18 to 35 out of the streets, and we put them to some sort of gainful employment, be it in the teaching sector or in the AGRO sector, we call them on AGRO, or the health sector. These are three vital and important things we're doing. And we have 300,000 waiting in the wings that we have pre-selected in December of 2017, and we're trying to get them on.
In Enugu State, There is a collaboration with private automobile companies to train thousands of technicians. So far, 6,165 young Nigerians were included in the 2016 Empower program.
I have learned a lot. Before, I don't know anything about metal work. But when I came into the department, I was able to know the marking out tools, the cutting tools, and the laying out tools.
I have to thank federal government for this initiative. They have done so very well. We thank God for the opportunities that are given to us. At least for the past 3 months we have been into this training, I have learned a lot of things. I can do pipe plumbing. I can do pipe fittings, and I can lay pipe on it.
With an investment of 1.4 billion naira for the acquisition of training tools, kits and training consumables for participants across the country, Ogun State has so far trained 160 youths under N-Build.
All the practicals on papers. So if an architect wants to correct an artisan on site, the architect needs to know more deeply on what you want to correct artisan for. Because some artisans believe you don't know what you are correcting them on. What you know is on paper. So I came here to learn, to know more.
In Kano State, the N-Power has been an answer to the unemployment problem in the area. Sanusi Abubakar Kanji could not get a job after 8 years of graduation. Today, he is among beneficiaries making impact in schools under N-Teach.
This program, I would say it has been quite engaging. I'm very, very happy for the administration for making this program become a reality.
Okay, with the money we are earning, of course, we are saving. And somebody like me, I'm a caterer. I read home economics, which, you know, in home economics, we have a lot of branches, which maybe, for example, me, I prefer the aspect of the catering.
The training providers partner with the federal government to train about 20,000 artisans under the 2017 budget appropriation. The one-year training program, which began across the Federation on the 1st of March 2018, provides a total investment of 230,000 naira per trainee apart from the monthly stipend. More than 2,800 beneficiaries are contributing to national development in Gombe State through the N-Teach and N-AGRO.
I happen to be one of the beneficiaries, which at the end of every month I used to get 30,000, which is not a small amount.
Yes, 4 plus 4 is equals to 8. We need Mr. President to continue until 2024 because it touches the lives of Nigerians.
In Nigeria, there are so many programs that was created during the past administration, and we couldn't see them. But this one is real because we are benefiting it.
They have trained me a lot that I can keep my poultry at home. Even at home with small ones, I can even start with it.
The growing success of the Empower program nationwide is a testament to the federal government's determination to meet the skills requirements of the industries while reviving Nigeria's apprenticeship culture.
Well, that report by Franca Uzomaula sets the tone for tonight's discussion. And just as we're going through the figures there, it's actually 651 million put aside every year for the SIP. But first, let's introduce our guests on this program. I'd like to welcome tonight Mrs. Mariam Uwais, who's Special Advisor to the President on Social Investment Program. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let me also welcome Isaac Nnamdi Obasi. He's a Professor of Public Administration at the University of Abuja. Prof, thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay, let's also welcome Ayobami Oyalo. He's a development economist. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening.
Also here tonight is Brahima Salawi, is an N-Power volunteer deployed to the FCT Primary Healthcare Board.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm not sure if we do have our other guest who's joining us from Ibadan Center. Is he there? Yes, he's right there in our Ibadan Center. It's Professor Okab Martin Obono. He's Chair Demography and Population Studies Unit, Department of Sociology, and is Director for Human Resources Development, the University of Ibadan. Thanks for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure, Cyril.
Well, as we always say on this program, at the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage of them. And for those calling in tonight, we say this every Tuesday. When your call gets through, do us a favor, reduce the volume of your TV set. Turn down the volume. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And the best way to know that your call is through to the studio is you'll see your name appear on screen. Once you see your name on screen, it means your call is through to the studio. So just go right ahead, ask your question, make your comment. Don't bother too much about the greetings. Go straight to the point. Try and keep it short so others can also get on the platform. So thank you once again for joining us on NTA Tuesday Live. Tonight, it's the social investment program that is in focus. And let's start by taking a cursory look at the overall social investment program, its various components. And let's turn to the special advisor to the president to give us that perspective.
Well, thank you for inviting us. It's been an awesome journey. So far, we have had over 10 million beneficiaries altogether. That's direct. We have 500,000 graduates that are Empower in every single local government, working in different aspects: agriculture, health, and education. We have over 20,000 in the non-graduate category, although some of them are graduates because they opted to go in because of the practical training sessions. We have conditional cash transfers that are predicated on a social register. We had to depart from the past, whereby randomly people were put on cash transfer programs. We have devised a very thorough process for trying to sort who indeed is the poorest of the poor. And those are the people that we're targeting and paying not just the 5,000, but we've trained community facilitators in every ward, and they are mentoring them. They visit them every week, and they train them on financial skills, on nutrition, on life skills. We have at least, we have almost 600,000 of those on our social register, the households, not individuals. Individuals are past 1 million. And we have, so far, almost 300,000 cash transfer beneficiaries, because we only pay a subset of those on this register. Then we have a school feeding program that's in 26 states, but all the other states are at various levels of meeting the standards that we set. We set the criteria for the states to meet. And once they meet, we engage. So we have over 9 million children, as you mentioned, almost 50,000 schools, being fed by 96,000 cooks. And it's not just the nutrition and the enrollment, it's also the empowerment for the cooks, and the fact that today, every week, we require 6.8 million eggs in our different states. In Kaduna alone, we require 1 million eggs a week. We have 594 cattle that we slaughter every week for the beef. We have over 140,000 chickens that we have to provide for these children. And this is not to talk about the vegetables and 83 tons of fish, metric tons of fish that we need. So the productivity and the sustainable income that's being generated for the farmers is really part of this homegrown solution. And it's the child being fed, the mother doing the cooking, and the farmer producing, the father producing the food for the cook to feed the child. It's a wholesome thing. And then we have the Jeep money that is targeting people at the bottom of the pyramid. We're given Jeep loans. Market money was anything between 50,000 and 100,000. And we realized that there's a huge populace that don't have access to any credit. They don't have collateral, and what they need is very little. You look at them, they roast yam or roast corn on the road. They sell salt and Maggi and Omo in 10 naira packs. Those people want to grow their businesses. So we started Trader Money, and so far we've given out over 1 million loans to in every state of Nigeria, and we just go into the markets and enumerate them. You don't need to know anybody. We've created a level playing field, and we hope to sustain that. So
it's been a really busy time, but I'd just like you to dwell a little bit more on one of those components, and that's because that has generated a lot of debate, the conditional cash transfer.
Yes.
The poorest of the poor, and people say, who determines who the poorest of the poor?
So what we do is, because we had to phase it, we targeted 30% of each state. So 30%, we look at the poverty mapping of each state, and we go to the poorest local governments in each senatorial district. Then we train enumerators within the civil service and the local governments to go in and hold focus group discussions in the communities of those local governments. And they are the ones that identify. We don't know them. Once they identify these people, we now visit each of the households, and we need the data. So we ask questions: how many people in the household, how many wives, how many children? We put it all in: assets, roofing material, water provision, all of that information on a device. We have a proxy means testing formula. It automatically ranks them from the poorest to the least poor. And we have a threshold. So even where you have, like in one of the communities, a Bale says, I meet all the parameters that have been set by the community. It's the community that says, this is what poverty means to us, right? And his name is on the social register. We go to his house, we see that he has a car, and the majority of people in his community have put as assets a torchlight or a kettle or a phone. He definitely won't get paid. So we only pay those below the threshold. So that's how we sort the poorest from those who are not as poor.
All right. So, so many people would say, it's relative. You determine who is poor and who isn't. But let's come to Professor Obasi, Professor of Public Administration. Give us your idea of this intervention program, the SIP.
Well, you know that in 2015, we were here, and we talked extensively about SIP, extensively. And in that program, we talked, especially we're interested in the instruments and the machinery or institutions for implementing or continuing the conditional grant scheme that we had under MDGs, that's the CGS. So the discussion went on, and we were passionate about encouraging the fact that it should be on. I have no doubt about it. I talk passionately about it. I separate the politics from the happenings.
All right.
Yeah, sure. I'm interested in all aspects of SIP, how it's going. This semester, my fourth-year student answered a question on it, comparing to what's happening in America. So I'm passionate, but the politics is a different thing for me as a scholar who, looks at the implementation of the program as it goes on. I must confess that it is steadily taking shape. Things that were not originally, programmed under it. Trade money, market money now wasn't there when it first came. It wasn't there. And also do know that some aspects that was there at that time, a particular aspect that was there that has to do with university undergraduates, in the sciences. That one is, stepped down. But it's a matter of where they think the emphasis lies. So for me, the program, we've appeared here a couple of times, with her about 3 times in the past, right from the beginning to when it is taking shape. If I remember one of the programs we had here off camera, we said we won't come here again until we see things working. Okay. And definitely we saw things.
So are you seeing things working?
Oh yes, things are working. Whether the impact is what we are measuring now is debatable.
All right, let's
measure impact in short term.
Okay, let's turn to the development economist, Ayobami Oyalo. Get your perspective on this, right?
Yeah, thank you. My perspective is quite simple. Some time recently there was a data that was released that Nigeria was supposed to be like one of the poorest countries or one of the poorest. So, and people were making a lot of noise about that. That Nigeria has become the home to the poorest. But what nobody is talking about is if truly that was the issue, then what is supposed to be our getaway from such damning statistics? This is the getaway. See, I called Madam, I said, please send me some data. I want to see a few things that you have been doing. And I was shocked. You see, when you feed the number of children they are feeding, most of us do not see what the multiplier effects are. You are employing a lot of farmers, you are employing a lot of cooks, you are creating some other secondary jobs. And these things are verifiable. If indeed you are feeding 9 million children, then you'll be employing cooks who happen to be some of the mothers of even those children. So you see how this thing goes around. The farmers generally will be within the locality of those schools. So which means you feed their children, you empower the parent, the children can go to school. So you are also reducing at the same time the number of out of school children that has been our bane. The statistics that was being bandied around recently was actually from 2015 downward. From 2010 to 15 when they say we had about 13 million children. I don't know what the current statistics are, but I think with this school feeding program, you are likely to have reduced the number of children that are not in school. Now, that is an aside. Now, when you look at the market money, the trader money, and all those things, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, the government of Nigeria is actually talking to the people that have been forgotten. We have given billions in bailout to big companies. We have given billions as bailout to the elites. As we speak today, we have trillions stuck somewhere in AMCOM. Some rich people took money that they never are willing to pay back against the country. But for the first time, a government looked beyond the elite. We're not doing the trickle-down economy, the one that used to be the system that somebody actually said, oh, we are a good country, we had the highest number of private jets. No, we're not looking at the rich this time. We are dealing with those people that you will call the forgotten of the society. So this is a government that has begun to look at where it hurts most, where the shoe actually pinches. You see, we've been having most of us are not linking things together. When you look at so much unrest, insurrections, and problems all over the place, it is because of poverty. So when you treat these children from so young in primary school, you feed them, you make sure they go to school, their parents are being helped, you give them 5,000, 10,000 to do businesses, and they are able to replenish. Because I was able to see some videos. There's a particular woman that actually broke me, said she couldn't even afford money to buy soap. Now she could buy soda. I mean, you know what soda soap means. And she was so grateful. Now, these are people that nobody think of in this country. Nobody ever thought about these people. People have forgotten them. So you can see how we are touching. I mean, this government is touching the lives of the people. So as for me, I am seeing a situation that for the first time, the norms are being changed. We're not just dealing with those people who have names, the big ones. We're looking at the smaller people, and then we are lifting them, because development economic means you deal with the least. I mean, you take them from the poorest of the poor to probably the poor, then maybe from poor to less poor, and then you begin to reduce the rate of poverty. So for me, it's a very positive development.
All right, so now to the direct beneficiary of one of these schemes. And Brahma Salawi, Empower volunteer deployed to FCT Primary Healthcare Board. Tell us your experience.
Yes, thank you for inviting me in this program. I would say the program is working and is having a good impact on the Nigerians, especially the unemployed youth. Even before now, a lot of people thought this government, all the promises they're going to empower the youth is not going to be possible. But the first time in my life I've seen a system of employment transparent. I can confirm to you that I was in my bed when I applied for this Empower. I don't know anybody.
You didn't go through some
nobody. I was
godfather somewhere, some big uncle?
Yes, it was through my outset. my phone. I applied for the test. I did it. Just my name came out without passing through any godfatherism and all of that. I didn't go through that. It was really transparent. Outside of that, it has given good opportunity to youths, the graduates, to get themselves developed. A lot of graduates are out of the school where they stay for a very long time without getting a job. They forgot what they were taught and all of that. This is an avenue for them to develop themselves, sell themselves to the world, rediscover their talent. I've worked in FCT here. This program has actually given me a broader look of the society where we have little gaps. We can actually come in with the empower. As a lot of training in my place of work. I've gotten a lot of training which I never thought I could.
All right, we'll come to you. But let's go over to our Ibadan Network Center, where Professor Okamartin Obono is. And we'll put the same question to him. Prof, you're looking at the social investment program. Give us your perspective, and how do you think this can impact on the lives of the ordinary Nigerians? We've heard someone say, look, for the first time, you're looking at the people who may have been forgotten all these years.
To be very clear, this initiative is a marvelous one, and from the consistency of the reports that have been shared with the Nigerian public, it's fair to say that there's diligence, there is absolute commitment, and from what the beneficiary is talking now, we can see transparency in the process. These are elements that have not always characterized previous programs. And parenthetically, we could say the Nigerian governance environment, its history, feeds from a certain cultural attitude where those who are well off, who are powerful, have a tendency to take care of those who are not so well off. It is something that is part of the beauty of our own cultural environment. So you see that play out in successive governments, administrations, and therein also lies an indication of consistency on the one hand, but again inconsistency where there's no follow-up. For instance, during the Yaradua administration, some of us expected a consolidation of the needs program. But that didn't happen. It was substituted by the 7-point agenda, which in its own right was very good. And then with the Jonathan administration, we saw a shift away from that towards human capital development. That too is good. But with the Muhammad Buhari administration's social investments, social protection program, I think it's fair to say that we have historically the most robust and the most ambitious program. And I seem to think also in terms of housing it under the vice presidency, creating a special advisor with a track record of performance. We can clearly see that this is going far. There has to be kudos to those running this program. That's on the one hand. It just shows the compassionate element in the administration. One of your guests has mentioned how the forgotten millions are now being brought back into the drawing board. This really, candidly, is something that has to be complimented. Having said that, we need to look at the next steps that will indeed make this program that is clearly pro-poor, that is clearly pro-people, that is clearly progressive, also become proactive and prolonged, sustainable. How do we do that? What will be the next major steps? The things that are being done must continue. There is hunger in the land, but you need also to remember that whereas this food intervention in the schools has actually stabilized school attendance, and this is good for the education of our children, no doubt. Old people are also hungry. So as we move forward in talking about the broad citizenry, we need to look at the specific vulnerabilities that affect different segments of the population. The elderly, for instance, are not looking for economic engagement right now. They have three critical problem areas. Their health suffers because they have depressed immunity, and then they suffer from hunger too and loneliness. If you look at Japan, where they have what is called an aging population, you see that they are automating a lot of things so that this population that is old, this group can also still remain economically active. It is another form of social protection. But in Nigeria, whereas Japan has a median age of 50 years, the median age in Nigeria is 17.9. In other words, half of the Nigerian population is aged less than 18 years. So it's a very young population, so there has to be intensified investments in education. This is the way to ultimately eradicate poverty. The way I think this program, and this is a program that I need to repeat, must be supported across board. The way to think about it is, what happens if we stop doing what we are doing now? How have we impacted the environment, the institution, the structures that created this poverty in the first place? So I hope as the conversation continues, we must not take away from the very positive results that are being reported under this program. But we need to go beyond that to think of a time when we talk of empowerment now. If, you know, Madam Uwesi's program is not doing what it is doing now, will the citizens still stand on their own? Will they be empowered enough to now overcome poverty at a personal level? So those are the two things. And we recently listened to the Emir of Kano, His Royal Highness Emir Muhammad Sanusi II, projecting that by 2050, Nigeria will actually be the poorest country in the world. We'll be housing the greatest number of poor persons in the world if current trends continue. This is because earlier in the year, Nigeria overtook India to occupy this inglorious status. If just 32 years away, we are heading towards the bottom. Currently, we are 152, I believe, out of 188 countries ranked according to the Human Development Index. So it actually looks as if we are careening out of control. We are careening out of developmental control. And we have this kind of intervention going on. Will it be enough to alter the trajectory? What is taking place now must continue, must be expanded, must be intensified. But can it alter that Sanusi trajectory so that in the next 32 years, we see an upward movement of the country, not a slide down the ladder as is being projected by many statistics that are available?
Thank you very much, Prof. You've raised so many issues here, and I'd like to take it from the last part of it, which talks about expansion, sustainability expansion, and it's all over the place. And people say, there's such a huge number requiring intervention programs. You've started something, but there's so many out there who would say, look, even with the NPower, millions more are trying to get on it, but it just doesn't seem possible. Let's start from that premise.
Well, I would say one of the things that our leadership has been concerned about is just this, how to sustain these programs. So we've been working very assiduously on a roadmap. First of all, having an agency that is lean at the federal level, as it is now, that just sets standards in the acknowledgement that the issues of education, health, agriculture, they actually belong to the states and the local governments, right? So it is their citizens. So the states need to take ownership. So we need an agency that has the ownership of the states, but the standard setting at the level of the federal, so that we at least are able to ensure that it's not done randomly. We've been engaging we've engaged NBS, we've engaged in terms of funding options. What are the options that are available? Are we going to have different funds? Are we going to have just one fund? We've engaged the Accountant General. We sit down, we've been to the CBN several times. We've spoken with NISA, the Institute for Social and Economic Research. We need an arm that will measure, that will evaluate, that will be able to support us on improving what we're doing. We've been talking to so many governance issues. You know, there's so many issues that we need to get right. And we're hoping that towards the end of November, we'll have a social protection conference. We'll present what we feel may be the way forward. But that social protection conference will have a lot of social protection practitioners from around the country, even internationally. What we need is an inclusive consensus on how to go forward, because we cannot impose. Every state is autonomous.
Right, and this is where we're going to. And a lot of people look to the federal authorities and say, yes, well, and you talk about ownership, but it's known that there are states that are not quick to, to buy into this project.
Yes.
Even with the school feeding program.
Yes.
Remember all the hiccups at the start of it?
Yes.
So how can these states be persuaded?
Well, for now, we have them all. But we're at different stages. It's just so difficult in some instances. You forget that the cooks are not literate, majority of them. And we insist that we pay them directly. We don't want any middlemen or middlewomen. So getting them to do the BVN and open accounts has been tedious. They send the data to us, we send to NIBS. NIBS comes back to us to say, 23% of them. We send the rest back. The state now goes back to the banks with the women. They come back. Some of these women did not even agree to go into banks. Right. When they saw sliding doors, they said no. That what if it closes and they're inside? You understand? So we've had all kinds of challenges, but we are determined that we will cut out, at least safeguard and protect them as much as possible. So there's so many moving parts.
Okay, we'll talk about those parts too. But our first caller is already on the line tonight. We have calling in from Jos, Ada. Hello, Ada. Go ahead.
Yes, hello. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, Ada, I'm calling from Jos. In my opinion, the school feeding program has not achieved its desired impact. It has no clear, holistic objectives. Most of the schools where this selective feeding is ongoing are faced with infrastructural deficits. As I speak to you now, some states have not keyed in, and the federal capital territory. Then sometimes some of the people, stakeholders, keep talking about balanced diet. My question is, how balanced is that balanced diet? Because we were told, if what we read on the page of newspaper is anything to go by, that the cost of the food is between 50 to 70 naira. So I wonder what kind of food could be prepared. Then another worrisome aspect is that this feeding is done from primary 1 to 4. I mean, from primary 1 to 3. And most states cannot continue the feeding. So what is even the objective? If the objective is to enroll, get students enrolled, pupils enrolled in schools to achieve the basic education, which terminates at GS3, this feeding should have been sustained up to GS3, if you want to keep them in school. Sometimes some of the pupils don't want to go to the next class because there's no food in primary 4. So I don't understand the whole scenario. So I think, and then when we're talking about poverty and eradicating poverty and all that, I feel that creating an enabling environment for private sector and youth to survive is a better way of taking on employment, poverty, and youth restiveness. The empower is fair enough. Then the trader money trading, whatever, that one is also fair enough. I can see into those ones. But this feeding thing, I don't really understand the whole scenario. God bless Nigeria. That's my take.
All right, thank you very much, Ada, and we'll talk about these aspects that you have raised here of the school feeding program. One, some people would say, yes, you're providing meals in schools, and the schools lack infrastructure, necessary infrastructure, that learning is not all about eating.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. And she also talked about the feeding taking place in only primaries 1 to 3. What happens after that? Some pupils not wanting to leave their classes because there's no food in the next class. And of course, the question of the ownership of this program. And many states are yet to, some states are yet to key in, and generally it's seen as a federal government initiative, so the government should just go ahead and feed everybody from primary 1 to 7. So maybe you start addressing these issues now.
Well, there are certain things that we need to be clear about. Constitutionally, we can't be building classrooms.
Right.
We can't be. We've helped with the teachers. The goal was to bring in children from outside and to boost their nutrition. What we have is a team led by IITA and the Federal Ministry of Health. They sit down with the Ministry of Agriculture in every state and determine what the menu should be with the calorie content that is commensurate to the children of that age. So this is the diet that we say is a balanced diet. Every menu differs from state to state.
All right, so it's not the same
It's
in
not
every
the
state.
same. It's not the same. It depends on what is affordable and what is accessible. But we need a balanced diet. And it is not us that do it. It is the Federal Ministry of Health with the IITA determining the nutrition, the nutritional content. Now, classes 1 to 3, that is what the government can afford for the time being. We have tried to encourage states to do 4 to 6. So far, Abia State and Jigawa State have started doing 4 to 6. But not all the states have started. And the way the other states that we're in, we now have like 4 states waiting to come on. We're just waiting for the data. So some states have been slower than others. And I would say I'm happy that that has happened, because we wouldn't have been able to cope the way the funds have been coming in. Now we're able to phase ourselves. And these states are very serious. Some people want to see things working because there has been a lot of skepticism in the past about government programs. So some states were reluctant. Some states said to us, it's more, they thought that they would need to give money. There has to be counterpart funding. We said, no, give us your personnel. Give us access to the classrooms. Give us access to your ministries. You know, the Commissioner for Women Affairs, Education, we need those stakeholders to talk to. Then we need to train the women on hygiene, on financial skills. So yes, there are challenges that erupt. Nigeria is a diverse country. And what we've done is to get a lot of support. The SSS came up to us and offered to monitor. They give us reports every month now. And we are able to nip some of these things in the bud. I would love for Ada to tell me that in a particular school, they're not feeding that menu. I wouldn't be able to know from here. But I need that kind of support so that we can come down hard on the cooks. The cooks are being paid. So federal government will continue paying. But for now, we don't have enough money to do 1 to 6. And for the states that have seen the benefit, they're doing 4 to 6. The idea of doing 4 to 6 actually deterred some states from even starting. So the vice president personally called the governors and spoke to them. Look at the value chain. Look at what is happening. Look at, there isn't enough eggs in your state. They have to go to other places to buy these eggs. You understand? So it's stimulating poverty. It's not a wholesome. I said, I get calls. They're saying, oh, this is about, you know, maybe in our own state, our worry is not out of school children. And so we shouldn't really be doing this. You know, our worry, we should be doing something else, maybe uniforms or books. And I say this is something that happens, it's the state responsibility. It's just that there's a need for an intervention from federal, because the statistics are we have 10 million children out of Nigerian children, not children from one state or the other. It's Nigerian children. That's the narrative.
Okay.
So.
All right. So we have another caller on, and one of our regulars on this program, Umar Anache, calling in from Birnin Kabi. Hello. Go ahead.
Kabi's next.
Yes, I'm Omar Anache calling from Birnin Kabi. Let me cast your mind back a bit. The PTF scrapped by Obasanjo, and there is fertilizer wallet program scrapped by this administration, NAPEP scrapped by this administration. They are all intervention programs that are well designed, well equipped, but policy somersaulting lead to policy inconsistency, or policy inconsistency lead to policy somersaulting. What measures have you put in place to make sure that this program, this intervention program, goes beyond Buhari administration? Yes, that is the first question. The second question is, in paper, it was fantastic. It was good design. It was marvelous. But let me tell you, for example, Anko Baroa program is poorly implemented here in Kebbi State, for example. Now, what measures have you put in place to checkmate the excesses of the implementers when they are implementing this program? Yes. May God continue to bless our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Umar. Well,
I spoke about the roadmap and the fact that we're engaging the various agencies to see how we can ensure that this goes. And I think the biggest thing is that we're impacting on Nigerians irrespective of politically of the administration. This is what our leadership told us, irrespective of which party is at the state level. The citizens are Nigerians, and so we're working today in Ekiti, we're working in Rivers, we're working in Taraba, and these people feel the impact of what's happening. So sustainability will come from the public, hopefully, if they feel that we're actually making an impact and we're sincere. And also the idea of ensuring that there's an institution and leveraging on the competencies that exist now, ensuring that the states understand and appreciate and buy in and have a say, and the local governments actually, we're building capacity in the civil service, not the political people. We're trying to see that, for instance, the gentleman, Professor Bono, he spoke about the agent. Our data has desegregated information, right? And we intend every 3 months to review the people we've been paying to see who we can wean off our registers. We have no inclination of or intention of weaning off the old people because we know they cannot be productive. So we have put aside at least 15% we know will remain on that register because they need to be taken care of as an entitlement. They are Nigerians and Nigeria needs to take care of them. That's my response.
All right. Well, Prof, yes,
Yeah.
you've listened to the first two callers on this program. Their concerns and raised them.
Yeah, I want to first touch on the issue of sustainability because it's important to me. I made a statement here today that I separate politics from the operation of the program. And why we lose this is this mentality of any government that comes, we sing the praise for that time, praise it to the highest. And when a new government comes, nobody talks about laudable programs. So I have had a disclaimer of first time thing happening. Not the first time. these things have been there. It's because we are not continuing them. We are not sustaining them. That's why whenever a program comes, we see it's the first time. It's not the first time. It's not the first time. Professor Bono also said this. It's not the first time. The elderly we're talking about, Dr. Fayemi of Ekiti, was giving them money. It was there. Good. So if a host
I agree with that.
If a host government comes and pushes that away, replace it with something and says the first time, it's not. We need to be consistent in making programs grow. We want to see this grow. In America, there are 13 programs on the welfare platform. 13, both state and federal collaborating. So, and no matter what government comes, like she rightly pointed out, the school feeding program is regardless of party policy, and the states you mentioned, they are on it, doing well too. So the issue is we must first of all recognize the ones that exist. CCT was there before what we have now. You know that it was there under MDG, CGS. It was there. The only thing is that they, like Madam said, they've tried to change the way, the methodology of generating the register. It doesn't take away historically that this program is there. What we are doing is to perfect. So if we have this culture of appreciating programs that are laudable and continuing them without making reference that is particular government, we help to get that to that level. Right. And that may be also sometimes may need constitutional support. Right. Yeah.
But again, I'd like also for you to look at the question of ownership, because it is obvious that so many people just think it is a federal government thing and it has to remain a federal. What is the role of states in all of this?
Like he said earlier on, for the conditional cash transfer, what Fayemi used to call Uwarubu. When I said the first time, I'm talking about on a federal scale. I know Dr. Fayemi in his first term was the one who pioneered the 5,000 to old people. It was there. There's no taking away from that great man. But on the federal scale, because this is being pioneered by the federal government, of course, in conjunction with the state government, I know the school feeding, there is a kind of a percentage here and there, and that was also started from Osun State. Then the school feeding actually started in Osun State. But when you look at it in this grand scale of, you are not just doing feeding or cash transfer, you're looking at trader money. You're doing training younger people like this gentleman here in the name of what is it? Empower and so on. So it's a much grander scale. So you are looking at a whole gamut. You're not doing for some people. You are leaving out another demography. You are looking at the entire demography from the children to the younger children, the much older one, then the very old people. So it's a big thing. And for me, what I think needs to be done now is for the National Assembly to be more statesmanly in the sense where he said that there should be some kind of a law backing it up. So that will be like the American system where you have a welfare system is normally a government system. It should be continued no matter what government comes in. Because the fear now is, I know clearly the man that has been chosen to be the vice president of candidate of the other party said something which was shocking recently on video. He said it's a joke. And it shouldn't be a joke. When we are feeding 9 million of our children, we're taking care of our old people. It is not a joke. So I think there must be a law. I totally support what he has just said. There should be an enabling law that will cast these things in stone. So that even if this government leaves, maybe they are re-elected, or maybe even if they come back and they finish their term, or they are not re-elected, or whatever happens, these programs must be sustained.
All right, we have another caller now from Abia, Umumere. Go ahead. I don't think we have that there. But a lot of things have been thrown up here. And yes, one of the callers talked about how to ensure that those who are to implement the schemes are doing what they're supposed to do. Let's come again to you and say you have been in the empire. What are the challenges here and what do you think can be fine-tuned?
Okay. In the empower system, the government has actually been tried. The payment of the stipends are always be regular at when due every month. And a lot of training has actually been going on. But there's one problem that a lot of people raise, even some of my colleagues, like transferring, especially the women. Some were not married before they applied to this Empower. They got married and there's a need for relocation from the state to another state. It's one challenge. And some of the Empowers in their place of assignment, some complain of the older workers they met there, they are not accommodated. They feel that they are just, government are just giving them the money for nothing. Not knowing that if you look at the Empower, in the health sector, in the teach, if you go to so many of the schools, you discover the Empower. They are at the forefront of making things possible for the schools and the hospitals and the health centers. I can tell you, since I started this Empower, just some few communities have not been to an FCT yet. So many cultures, so many things I've learned through this Empower. Okay. Go to, in this process of Empower, I knew about this malnutrition children, where we have severely minority children, identify them. We do that on a daily basis all over FCT, and we'll be able to identify so many children. Even UNICEF, out of the identification, UNICEF are intervened. They've established a center for FCT, but it's yet to be commissioned, but it's functioning presently.
All right, just before we get the response to some of these issues you raised, let's go back to the phones, and Onogu from Lokoja calling in. Hello. Hello? Are you with us from Lokoja? All right, we don't have all night to wait for that. So
good evening. This is Onogu Mohammed calling from Lokoja.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me first of all appreciate the efforts of the government in the area of the school feeding and the Empower program. Just like you have rightly said, the school feeding has a kind of value chain, importance, because while you are feeding the pupils in the primary schools, then in the agricultural sector, people are producing the food, which means you are encouraging agriculture in that aspect. You understand? And the rural people who are providing, who are cooking the meals, they are also engaged, which means you are equally empowering the rural women to do what they can, earn a living from. That is fantastic. But the problem now is that how is it going to be sustained? Because in the kind of Nigeria political system, we have witnessed different policies somersaulting. Once another administration come on board, it may jettison the idea of this present administration, which to me is very laudable. I think we need to look into that and make it a policy, just like Oyalo Ayobami has said. The National Assembly has to look into this and make it a kind of a policy that these people at the primary school level need to be catered for by the federal government. Then these old people need to be catered for by the federal government, so that it will not be something that will be abandoned on the long run. So as far as I'm concerned, the initiative is laudable. And I really appreciate the effort of the federal government by doing that. Thank you, and have a very wonderful discussion over there.
Right. Thank you very much. Well, the issues are coming in, same matter of sustainability, but we'll address these right after this break. So stay with us. We'll be back after this time out.
I not get something when they go give you, unless thank you. I did get change to make farm. Then he helped me house. The house when I did before, he dey link. Before I born, 5 pikin. I no get food when I go give them. That's why I share them. But now my pikin, they near me. Someday with me now. No be like before. I happy. I thank you. I no see him, but God go carry my I go with her where I dey.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered, and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Well, as usual, we went out to speak with the citizens and hear their views on the issues at stake.
You can see the intervention programs are progressing in many states. Both the school feeding, which we have all seen, we are witnesses to the school feeding, and this Empower. When you see those engaged really functional, and government has tried so much to keep its promise in terms of provisions for them, regular payments, even work materials. I've seen a lot of them with their laptops and all this. It's not possible to get everybody on Empower at the same time. But at least there's so much to be done. The population is growing by leaps and bounds. So we should be patient enough, and we hope government will be able to get the resources towards alleviating this problem through the budgeting process.
Feeling for federal government and suggesting for them to create a powerful employment for the youth.
I don't think the fund is getting the right source or resources. Many of them are not getting the loan. Everything is urbanized, everything is in the city center. And then there is too much bureaucracy attached to these loans. Administrative, before the money gets down to the people who need the money, it's gone. And take it or leave it, corruption is still here with us on a large scale. A government should think about creating enablement for the private sector to engage people. That is the best way to address unemployment.
The Empower program, actually, I didn't participate in that, but I actually had one or two friends that actually participated in that, and from their recommendation, some of them actually said they benefited, and a few number of them said they did actually benefit from the program.
Okay, Empower is a good program because it seeks to empower young people who are not employed. However, the way it's currently being run, most of the beneficiaries, as I'm talking to you, I have a younger brother who is one of the beneficiaries. He told me specifically on Saturday that they have not been paid the last batch for 3 months.
All right. Maybe at this point we'll just quickly take a response to that before we go on to Ibadan Network Center and ask the views of Prof there. But, well, you had some of those who have spoken about the system, particularly the last view we got there that people have not been paid for 3 months. And
well, what we had was we pre-selected and we didn't get the funds early. So they were aware that they had been selected, but we didn't put them on the program until about 3 months ago. But since then, we've been paying regularly.
Okay. So it's not a question of people have been on and the usual thing you hear about.
No, I think we have covered like 96% of the 200,000. We've been able to resolve their issues. A lot of them, it was BVN and account number and putting in names, failing, their names. And in some states, it was actually caused by the state. Because when they apply, they give us their phone numbers. We send them a text to say you've been selected. And then after we've ensured, verified through NIBS that they've been, they're authentic people, we send the list to the states to physically verify them. So to look at their qualifications, to ascertain that they're between 18 and 35, to ascertain that they are unemployed, and then to deploy them. Because at federal level, we don't know what the student ratio is in a particular primary school. It has to be the state. In the same way, in the primary healthcare centers, we don't know where the needs are. So it has to be the state to do that. In 2 or 3 states, they actually refused. They substituted names and put names of the indigents of that state, saying these are non-indigents. But you see, because we had the master list and we had the BVN and the account number, and it's about payment, and this technology you can't outsmart it. We send the payments and the name does not match the BVN, does not match. So the people that they put newly were not getting paid. And the people that we had sent texts to were not being paid either, and they started protesting. This was in the beginning. So I had to go and address them to say, look, for those of you who got texts, we'll send another team to do the verification. For those of you who were informed by the state that you've been selected, be patient. When we open the portal again, you can apply. But this is a federal government program. And think about the number of your state indigents that have been selected and are working in other states. Do they now get, dropped because they're not from that state? A federal government program means that any youth can live anywhere, vote anywhere, pay tax anywhere. We cannot say you must be from the state. A state that wants to take only its indigents should set up its own employment agency, but not a federal government program.
All right, we'll return to 1 or 2 other issues that were raised, particularly by Brima. But let's go over to our Lagos Center and again engage Professor Oka Martin Bono on what we have heard so far. Oh, sorry, Ibadan Center.
Several issues have been raised, sustainability being one of them. And my view is that we can't take away from the joy, the happiness of the beneficiaries. But if you also look at the matter critically, like even the woman in that video that was so grateful and happy, I'm happy for her. What we have is a form of alleviation of the poverty that was there before. We need also to be thankful, together with her, that alleviation has taken place. But the poverty itself has not been eradicated. And global thinking on this matter, particularly as you have it enshrined in the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 SDGs. When it comes to poverty, the world has moved beyond alleviation of poverty to eradication, elimination of poverty. And again, the distinction between alleviation of poverty and this eradication or elimination is not merely a semantic one. It is a programmatic one. The steps we need to take in order to alleviate poverty are probably the ones that we are taking now. But if we seek to eliminate poverty, then we need to confront its systemic origins. We need to look at the root causes of this poverty and yank those things out. We need to make appropriate systemic and institutional investments. Perhaps now is not the time to do that. We need to show how compassionate governance also is key, central, to mobilizing public sentiment into a belief that governance can actually do the right things, as it is doing now. But after this phase, we need to start building the kind of collaboration that will take care of another thing that has been muted, namely measurement. Earlier on in the program, you, Cyril, were asking, how do you really identify who's poorest? We can easily do that in the next round of census. The Nigerian census is overdue anyway. Collaboration between SIP and the Nigeria Population Commission will be able to put appropriate questions in the next census to enable us to identify the kind of thing that's already being done under the program. Household assessment, like Madame Uwais was saying. Those kinds of questions can be standardized in the census enumeration form, so that just as in 2006, when we conducted a population and housing census, this time it will also be sensitive to poor issues, to vulnerability issues, so that it goes beyond even the determination of the state. If it is a federal government program, we should have a database that enables us know who actually is poor, bearing in mind also that in the same household, and this is one of those terrifying things that I've discovered in my own assessments, you can have people who share the same roof, share the same walls, share the same siblings, and the same parents. But when you look critically at it, you start finding some that have certain attitudes, certain aptitudes, which mark them out as rich, which mark them out as pro-successful. So you find out that this thing called poverty actually has some invisible origins and sources that are not easily captured by the positivistic methods that we are using now. So there's a whole range of measurement issues that we still need to collaborate with MPC and, say, the National Bureau of Statistics in order to help this program make projections, know what kind of dents it is making in poverty as we move along. Currently, you have a bunch of beneficiaries who are very happy. That's true. But again, is it moving Nigeria away from that status of a heavily indebted, poor, low-income country to a medium-income country, for example? Can we foresee how many years it will take us to get out of these developmental doldrums? Measurement becomes critical to understanding sustainability. And the institutions, finally, I was saying, this is not the creation of any particular administration. The model that we are using of interinstitutional relationships can only produce unemployment. What I mean is, if you take the family as an institution, and you take education as another institution, and you take the labor market as a third institution, there's a linear relationship among them. You first of all are born in a family, you are socialized in the family, you are trained to respect elders in the family, and you are equipped with all kinds of parables that are not economically progressive. You should be careful about strangers. You should be careful. Don't go too far and all of that. That kind of mentality, was suitable for a period in our lives when we were very sedentary. Right now, we are highly mobile, so it's not applicable. Then you now go to school. All you do, you just remain as a student in school, then you graduate. That kind of relationship can only produce unemployment, and then you now start trying to tackle it. We need to create concentric interrelationships among these things. We need to take the labor market and drive it into the school system. So as somebody is a student, he is learning and is earning at the same time. And that can only happen when we take one big goal, like energy. Take the example of engineering. Rather than picking science and a few students and providing them with scholarships, this discriminates against other citizens who may be finding it difficult to see themselves through school, especially since we have not brought back the system of student loans. And Nigeria still has the Student Loan Board. We need to bring that back on board to make education affordable. And then the money spent in investment by the government on this education recoverable post-graduation after a predetermined period of time. So if you took energy, getting back to it, you say, okay, engineering focus now is in creating, say, solar panels and the kind of clean energy that can be exported to the rest of West Africa, for example. You find out that the collaboration between the government and the educational system and the private sector will mean that as the students are studying and creating panels and inverters and so on, these things are being marketed and the students are simultaneously earning a salary. They are marking up points. So we need to remodel, retool how we look at these institutions, how we look at these systems. If we don't do that, we'll be doing a fantastic job as we are doing. And again, we cannot minimize the success story that is emerging in the current program we are discussing. But if the real thing is the impact and the alteration of trajectory, that Nigeria is moving steadily to becoming the poorest nation in 32 years, we need to ask that painful and difficult question. How are we going to turn that thing? A car is going off the cliff. Can we apply the brakes? Can we turn the steering wheel? Is that what is happening now? When will we turn around that curve? And then we know that we are making a U-turn from the bitter precipice of predictable destruction.
All right, we'll try and get another call through, and hopefully we have the scholar on the line from Jeba. Just go right ahead, introduce yourself, and let's hear your views.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Right.
My name is Afobaje. My contribution to this matter is that we really enjoy this program. And our president, President Muhammadu Buhari, is doing a lot to Nigeria. So we appreciate it. So to be keeping on.
All right. Okay.
To be keeping on, we really enjoy it because I have about 6 friends now that before they are not. What do you call it?
Okay.
That they are benefit from the power.
All right. Okay.
If it is before, they will come to me to borrow money from me, but now they are earning salary. The man is really done a lot to Nigeria.
Okay. All right. So, so thank you. That's another view from the other end there. Well, He's got people who are beneficiaries.
Always has taken the stress of him from borrowing from his friends. I mean, his friends borrowing from him.
Okay, so they can now earn something on their own
And
instead
not
of
bother him
asking him for
some loans.
for loans. But yes, coming back here, there were one or two issues that were raised, and I said we would return to them. The challenges faced in the NPower program, for instance, talking about the female, beneficiaries. He talked about some of them getting married and having to relocate, and the challenges of moving from one place to the other. Well, sometimes, yes, these things are real, but sometimes we find that perhaps in the initial stage, not much
It will take time for us to resolve these issues, They're really large issues,
Yes.
but just to talk to Professor Obono,
Yes.
we actually are collaborating with the NBS, where they're doing a household survey for us for poverty. We could not look at everybody below the poverty line because the numbers would overwhelm us. And certain parts of this country are much poorer than other parts. Our mandate was to go around the entire country. So we needed to make it contextual. Even in Lagos, you have people who are really poor. And if we were to say we're going to look at everybody, we would be looking at the South-South and the Northeast more than anybody else. We need to go to every community. So we need to ask the people in the community, what is poverty in your own context? But with time, and I'm praying that this is a foundation that we're laying, we've got data now that is really important. Apart from all this, information that we have on households, 2 weeks ago, somebody called me to say, what are you doing for widows? And I said, well, we don't have a lens for just widows. We have a lens on poverty. But I can tell you, in the 26 states that we have this social register, which households we have that are headed by widows and how many people live within those households. And within 2 hours, I was able to give her all that information. If you want to work, you want to target everybody above 65 in a community or only physically challenged in certain households. Beyond that, we have data about proximity. How near are the primary schools? How near are the secondary schools to each community? In one of the states that is not, it's really one of the poorest states, we found that 60% of the communities we were in, there was no primary school within 3 kilometers. No parent is going to allow their child at 3 or 4 to trek more than 3 kilometers to go to school. So sharing that information with the governors, we know it's not our responsibility, but the governor was very happy to know. The important thing is, we would prefer, for instance, to pay. This is one of our hugest challenges, paying them at the last mile, because poverty and banks don't coexist. So we use agents, right? And agents know. When on payday, people know that payments are being made. Initially, in a few of the communities, the youth would come around and say, we identified you, drop a levy. We engaged the Minister of Defense, Minister of Interior. He asked the Civil Defense to support us. And they now accompany our agents to protect those women. But what we want is digital payments. So we've been meeting with the banks, with the CBN to see, and even with the REA, the Rural Electrification Agency, can you provide power to places where we have reception? Because we also get information on network availability. Let us see how fast women will be able to receive money with phones. So they've agreed they'll give us solar units. Let's start in some areas where we know there's energy, or that you can give us solar power where we know there's reception, but there's no power, so the women can't charge their phones. And we're trying that. We're trying so many things. We're taking down their identities. This for us is social inclusion. We now know the densities in some of those communities, the densities that really mean that we need to have primary healthcare centers in those places. People that have never registered even at birth now have bank accounts. If you have a BVN, it means you have a NIN number because it's generated. So we're using that. One of the agencies we met in this roadmap discussion is Galaxy Backbone, because we know this kind of data, we can't just let it go. We need to host it in a place that really can do this. And I was amazed at the capacity in the new building. So there are plans that we're doing. We want to make sure that this is sustainable. But of course, at the end of the day, you know, it is left to the Nigerian public.
Right. Okay, let's try again with Umeri, who called in earlier from Abia and had a dropped call. Hello, guess you're back on the line now. Let's hear you.
Let's try again with Umeri, who called in earlier from Abia. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, go right ahead.
Please, I was surprised to hear that all this program is going on, but none is reaching to Abia State. Are you hearing me? Abia State. So if they claim that the thing is going down to the people who are supposed to benefit from this free program, they will tell us the areas.
All right. Okay.
The areas, so that the federal government will know where they are spending their money. We have people who needed this assistance, but it's not coming down to the grassroots.
All right. Straight away, this is a straight question for the special advisor to the president on the social investment program. Is Abia
It definitely
in or
is.
out?
It's definitely a part of the programs. They must have at least 12,000 Empower beneficiaries. And the end build, I've been to Abia personally. And the governor has been very supportive. We have trainees in some of their automotive things. We're doing school feeding.
So sometimes these things surprise you when you hear a program is in a state and somebody says, no, there's nothing like that in my state.
Well, I hear this all the time. You know, I admit some of this is our fault. Maybe our communication is not effective. For me personally, it is a dilemma. You know, money to communication is expensive. And it's all from the same pot. So it's a decision to put money in communications or to pay the beneficiaries. But I assure Mr. Nwumere, if you ask, go into the primary schools in Abia State, you will find that we are working there. It is not us, it is your state people that are driving them. That is what we've ensured. That it is the state itself that drives these programs. Go into your Ministry of Planning. You will find that there's a social register. Please, Mr. Nwumere, you can, you can take my word for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, Prof, again, there's also another aspect of it, and these are programs meant to benefit Nigerians at the lower rungs of the ladder. But again, you also have this recurring issue of corruption, where people who are supposed to benefit from this are being shortchanged because some people are standing in the way. We heard stories about those who would say, well, we identified you, so you've got to...
No, we've sorted that.
Yeah, that's actually what I want to say, because we encountered this in our discussion in the past, and I think that has been taken care of in terms of those who were either excluded for one reason or another. Those were initial teething problems.
Okay, what about, for instance, the school feeding program? And you had some areas when they said, you know, some of the cooks were shortchanging, you know, the pupils. And
yeah, it's true. There are a lot of things happening, but I want to admit on an improvement scale that for Abia and Jigawa, did you say Jigawa?
Yes.
I've taken over 4 to 6. For me, it's a value addition to what already exists, because it was only Oshun that was doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, so for me, this is how it is permeating all the areas. Abia joined late. Abia wasn't among the first days that, or even among the 5th or 6th, he didn't. He joined late. So if he's now taking care of 4 to 6, it's a good news to me.
Yes.
And that is a challenge for other states to key in and put their money where it matters most. But as for whether people will cut corners, I give it to you that without effective monitoring, Nigerians I know will like to cut corners. That's the truth of the matter.
Okay, now some also have talked about creating an environment where the private sector can come in and play a better role than it is currently. What do you see to that?
Well, I see it from different perspectives. Firstly, I will quickly add what they just said here about maybe like people saying they don't know what's going on in some places. I think, like I told Madam the first time I was going to be talking to her was, I think, 2 days ago. I think the job they're doing is being underreported. They have issues with communications, and that is one thing we must work hard on, because it's so unfortunate when somebody calls in from Abuja and say nothing is going on there. That means it's been underreported, grossly underreported, with the kind of population that is being touched. I don't think that should be an issue. So it's something that must be done in terms of communication. Now, talking about private sector, I think if we, like I said earlier on, the laws needs to be strengthened so that this goes beyond the lifespan of this government. So in that wise, the private sector will have to come in, for instance, in the empower issue, for instance, that they should be able to take some of these graduates. You see, we've had issues in Nigeria with artisans. I'm sure every one of us must have had an issue in your home. You bring in an electrician and he comes in and mess things up for you. You bring in a plumber and he mess things up for you. We don't have a standardized system such that right now, if you want to do this, what they call POP walls, people from Benin Republic are the ones doing it. It's a shame on us. So these are the things that Empower needs to do. Liaise with the private sector. We need to have a standardized system for artisanship, such that if you bring in a plumber, there is a set standard that he should follow. For instance, if you live in the UK, your gas has issue, you can't just bring in anybody to come touch it. There are standard systems. So you will hardly hear about gas fire in homes. But in Nigeria, we have this problem because you just bring in anybody and it does one thing and your gas leaks and then the house gets burned, God forbid. So some of these things are what the private sector will have to partner with the government. I'm sure, like he said, they've had teaching problem, but as we go along, I'm sure the scope will expand and it will go beyond just the government. Because for the young men and women in Empower, they will need to put in some of this training. They will not be in Empower forever. After they have learned some of their trades, they will need to move on to create even these jobs for themselves. I've watched one of your programs. I think it was your Sunday program that was talking about this lady in Benin, the lady mechanic. Somebody brought this lady to public, and today she has trained hundreds of other ladies and men in mechanic work. So those are the things. You need to grow the scope of this thing beyond just the government. So I think they have started very well, but I think two things must come to play. The laws must be strengthened so that these programs, especially the ones that have to do with welfare, are cast in stone. No government can come and change it.
All right. We still have a caller on the line from Abuja here. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, go right ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, just go right ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, go ahead.
I am Chico calling from Abuja.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
It's Chikere, Chikere.
All right, Chikere, go ahead. We can hear you.
I appreciate the effort of the president very well and the Empower. And from my own investigation, I discovered that the Empower is not also taken care of in my state, in most states. And
oh dear, Chikere, we lost that. Oh, would appreciate if you could try again. I think it's Imo he mentioned. He said it's not in Imo.
No, it's not possible.
I know it's 26 states right now.
No, Empower is in every
No,
state.
Empower is in every state. I think the school feeding is the one that is growing gradually. Empower is all over the country.
Right, so it's right there in Imo.
But you know, the problem with these kind of programs is it takes time. And majority of our beneficiaries don't have access to the media. It is the Empower that is on tablets, they have phones, they can actually engage. Where we have people, some of them don't even have radios. A lot of our cash transfer beneficiaries, because we've deliberately gone to people that don't have never, you know, had access to these things. There's some of these communities you have to go through water, so it's difficult. The communication means the journalists have to go there for the stories to be heard. So this is part of the problem. People say we don't know. You interview people in town, they won't know. They're right, they don't know because they're not where it's happening.
It's happening mainly in the rural areas.
Yes, but with the private sector, we even had a business case done for school feeding and cash transfers in particular, because they want to see what is profitable, right? So let us know for every dollar that is invested in school feeding, there's a return of $9. You know, we've tried. I made a demonstration to the Industrial Council. We're trying to see how we can attract them. CSR, can we talk to FIRS to see how they can engage with this, to talk to the private sector, what is it that they will get tax waivers for? You know, but the private sector, I believe, will come on board. Everything is a process.
Well, there are two quick issues that I really would like to raise here, and just as we begin, we get on the last lap of this program, and it has to do basically with what we've talked about here, sustainability, and how vulnerable this whole program itself is. In a few years from now, where will it be? Prof. Inibano talked about, well, it will address alleviation of poverty. The ultimate goal, of course, is eradication. And even as we speak, there are questions and issues being raised about the funding of the SIP. For instance, the question of funding of the Independent National Electoral Commission, where the bulk of this fund is been taking up, taking out of the SIP. Now, people have raised issues about that. Won't that now begin to knock this system? Here we are talking about sustainability. Here we are saying that the project doesn't have all the funding it needs. So if we're taking out of it, what does that say?
You remember one of the things I said earlier when I said the National Assembly have to be statesmen. You see, it is unfortunate, but it is painful. You know, when he was talking, I didn't even know that the American welfare system have up to 13 programs in it. I knew it works, but I never knew they have up to 13. Now, if the National Assembly is the one knocking this program off, it's painful, because the truth is, like the Prof in Ibadan said, we are supposed to have gone beyond poverty alleviation. But unfortunately, if we still have poverty, we have to be realistic. That is our reality. We have to begin to alleviate before we begin to talk about eradication. And how do you eradicate when you have not even alleviated from the beginning? So the National Assembly will have to be, people have to look at them in the eye and tell them the truth. These people are also Nigerians. They have a right to benefit from Nigeria. And what is the benefit of this? Some of these people in the village, when you see them, they have never in their lives come across anything about the government. They don't have good roads. They don't have good schools. They don't have pipe-borne water. For the first time, people are getting something. They are seeing that a government cares for them. And we are still trying to deny them this little joy. I think it is unfortunate. That is why I am calling on the National Assembly that a law must be passed to finally make this a Nigerian system, that for people of so and so means, we must find a way of categorizing these people and make sure that they are not just the forgotten. They are part of. We can't just go to these guys for 4 years and say, vote for me. And then that's the only thing they are useful for as vote materials. They are human beings. They must be treated like human beings. And how do you do that? You take care of some of their needs, and then you don't just go to them to vote, but you actually show them that the government they vote for works for them.
Right. Professor?
Yeah, the issue of institutionalization is important. And that raises the issue of the relationship between the Special Office of the Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals and Madam's office. You know that SDGs, from now, I think about 13 years to come, we'll still be on it. About 2 years out of just. So, SDG will be there completely. And you can use SDG to monitor how we are moving. For instance, when we talk about eradicating poverty, and make sure that no one will be left behind in every inclusiveness will be the driving force. You find out that if you have a good link with the office, if they are working, definitely there's no way the thing will go away. Because there will be a kind of complementarity that will be sustaining the relationship. And by that, you institutionalize the way the thing operates. Because at the state level, she mentioned Minister of Planning, Economic and Planning Ministry. The what do you call it? The focal person of SDG. They collaborate together, and you find out that at every point in time, no matter what government comes in, this institution will be there. They will be recreated. I don't know my own fears, because it's located in the office of the Vice President. And what they're achieving, the indicators are what SDG is supposed to be used to be measuring the effect it's having on either lifting people out of poverty, either giving them continuous education and the rest of them, etc. So if I see the thing working together, I'll be sure that the institutionalization of this will be there. And that's one way again to sustain.
All right, let's go to Ibadan Center. And Professor Obono, you have expressed a lot of concern about sustainability and where we go next from here. And again, we'll come to you that even now, at this level, the funding is facing some questions, especially now that the National Assembly is thinking of taking a chunk from that fund in order to, get INEC running for what it's supposed to do against next year. Yes, this is also important. But people have raised questions about that wouldn't this do damage to this pro-poor program?
It most definitely will do considerable damage to this pro-poor program, as it has always done before, where there is not adequate political will and we embark on something that requires sustained action. I think the Office of the Special Advisor to the President on Social Protection will need to consider the advocacy component of that office. In advocacy, there will be continuous dialogue and interface with the National Assembly. It's very unfortunate that we are now hearing that the representatives of the people who are poor and impoverished are the ones denying a program such as this the resources it needs to continue doing the good work it's doing. One solution to this, naturally, is to remember Oliver Twist. You'll recall when he asked for more, everybody remembers that. But it was in the context of the Elizabethan poor laws in Great Britain. Just the kind of thing that is taking place now, except that it was very general. Out-of-school children, through channels that are out there, out of school, will also be fed. old people will also be fed. There were buildings that were dedicated to this purpose. We've wasted a lot of buildings in this country. In 774 local government areas of this country, we once infamously and ingloriously erected SDP and NRC political offices that we never used. We could have used a fraction of that money to build homes for the destitute. You see, when we talk about social protection, a few definitional issues arise. There are three key foci that we will be looking at. Poverty is one of them, and we have spent the entire time talking about that. But what about economic shocks and vulnerability? The question of internal displacement. When people are displaced, how do we mitigate the fact that they have been dislodged from their livelihood systems? Either through the current military Shiite conflicts, the well-known insurgency in the northeast, the situation in the south-south, and all manner of other things, including economic factors that displace people from where they come from. We will need a new direction that ultimately gives us Nigerian poor laws. It is heartwarming to see that in the manifesto of the All Progressives Congress, there is a very key philosophical outlook. The worldview of the APC actually leverages, privileges the idea of a pro-poor philosophy. If the manifesto says that, then there should be strong advocacy to ensure that we enact poor laws that deals with homelessness, whether it emanates from internal displacement or not, that deals with all the categories of persons that the current program is dealing with. And then it makes those expansions that we are talking about. This is the way to transcend this kind of ad hoc programming that depends for its sustenance on the political fortunes of the administration in office at any given point in time. If we have acrimonious elections now, if we have very violent and brutal elections, and there's bad blood between the main contenders, and one is then displaced or replaced by the other, you generally find out of that bitterness, the political will wane. So we have to protect this kind of work that we are doing by enacting Nigerian poor laws. And once the Office of the Special Advisor on Social Protection undertakes this advocacy function, you will find that the communication plan for the entire program will naturally evolve, because there will be policy briefs to relevant committees of the National Assembly so that they can be informed about the true nature of life of those constituents that they claim to represent. Because to lack political will at a time such as this is to sadly demonstrate once again that although in this country we have representatives, we quite often do not have representation. They are persons of vulnerability too. It should not be Madame Uwais alone. It is the representatives of the people who should be pushing for the consolidation of a program such as this. So I think the next step is inevitable. Advocacy, Nigerian poor laws.
As we wind down, what's your last word on how this system can produce or can be beneficial to more people like you who would someday step up and then move away from that line of not having...
Joe,
yes.
Thank you. I would advise the Nigeria youth, the graduates, even the non-graduate, when this opportunity comes up again, they need to apply. And those who are selected, they need to prove themselves in the area of deployment. They have to show that those who initiated this program, they did make mistake by initiating the program. Let it be to the whole world that when this Empower program was initiated, they actually see a result, a change in the way things were being done, the result they were getting. It should be on the increase. They should not just relax and be receiving the money and they are unproductive to the system that is paying them.
Okay. All right. Well, your final word on this program, and I'd like you to also recall the question about resistance from those who think that people like Brahma, who are on the Empire program, have only just come to get freebies and not contributing anything to the system, just as we wind up.
Well, I'm very pleased that Brahma has spoken, and I know that there are many people in the Empire that have benefited, but I know there was a clamor for us to extend, and we've been planning Empower Enhanced, we call it.
Right.
And we've met, for instance, 2 weeks ago, I was with NERSA. They want to take the entire AGRO to see how they can train them and ensure that they get value, or anybody else in Empower that is interested. So we're trying to ensure we will have psychometric tests online to know whether they're employee by nature or entrepreneurships, what they would be, or whether they can be employers, so that we can know where to guide them to. It has to be a very systematic manner of exiting them to ensure that even those that don't, that maybe if we do have the funds, we will give them an exit package. Okay. But there's a lot to be done, and I really am very happy with what I've heard today, because a lot of the time when you have so much on your hands, you don't think long term. And I'm glad that everybody here is hammering on sustainability. I would really like to invite Professor Obasi and Professor Obono to our planning meetings on sustainability, because I see that they really appreciate and understand what the concerns are.
All right.
Thank you.
And it's on that note we will have to leave this discussion. I always say that no one program can take care of all the issues at stake. So at this point, we'll have to leave it. And hopefully some other time we'll come back and take another look at how much impact this program has made on the lives of Nigerian citizens. For now, let me say a big thank you to Professor Oka Martin Obono, who joined us from our Ibadan Network Center. He's the Chair, Demography and Population Studies Unit, and Department of Sociology, Director of Human Resources Development, University of Ibadan. Thank you, Prof, for being part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Cyril.
All right. And studios, thank you to Brahma Salawi, an Empower volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you for coming. And we say thank you to Ayobami Oyalowo, who's a development economist. Thank you for.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And to Professor Isaac Nnamdi Obasi of the University of Abuja, thank you for being here.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
And well, thank you to the Special Advisor to the President and the SIP, Mrs. Mariam Uwais. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. And you as well, thank you for being part of this program. Next week we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.
everyone's power. So feel powerful with the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the You Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
I am Adeola Omokibi, and the program you're watching is Sports Real. Keep a date with us.
Fans, they don't understand the rules or the laws of the game.
Hello and welcome to that program of yours on the NTA Sports channel, Knowing Golf.
And thanks for joining us on another edition of Sports Guest on the NTA. My name is Kenneth Emma Abodike. Welcome indeed to Saturday Sports Arena on the NTA Sports 24.
It would not be if you continue to just have these vague means of saying these are the yardsticks I want to use.
League Service, a program designed to bring you up to speed with happenings in Nigerian football leagues.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
The date palm resembles the coconut and oil palm trees that grow in the forest regions of Nigeria in their